So I'm trying to see if there are questions coming up, and an update on Antarctica. Well, you know, I talked to Richard Allen Miller last night, and on my show, and he was talking a bit about what he knows about Antarctica. He was actually there quite a long time ago, from what I understand, and so that was interesting. So tune into my show from last night with Richard Allen Miller if you want to hear some things about Antarctica that he had to say. My understanding is that Antarctica is, actually, I've been told by sources, it's a base for various ET races. It's one of the only places that they can have meetings that are not surveilled by the rest of the world community. And so that's one of the things going on there. The other thing is, of course, they've discovered relics from Atlantis, underground cities, and a massive city. And I have talked about this already, but it's written about in a book called, I think the book is called Atlantis Rising. It's an ebook available on Amazon, and so you can just look up Atlantis Rising. That came forward from Linda Moulton Howe contact, who had been working in Atlantis, not Atlantis, but in Antarctica, and apparently some reason he spilled the name of that book, said the hardbound had been barred from being published, but they did allow the Kindle to go out. I'm not sure why they did that, but that's what's going on with that. So someone is curious about Las Vegas. You know, Las Vegas was basically a false flag. A lot of people didn't die that they said did. A lot of people never checked into the hospitals in the surrounding area with any wounds or anything. Apparently there were some dead bodies put onto the scene, if I remember correctly. And I know someone who's investigating this, a team of people. I have been told by a very deep source that if anyone tells the truth about what went on in Vegas, they will get killed. It appears to have been a coup against our government, and not sure why the Saudi prince was there, but he was. I do not believe it was an attempt on his life. I think he was fine, and I know that there were lots of helicopters, and there was a lot of shooting going on in all different parts of the city. I think Steve Wynn knows a lot more than he's saying. What's his name? God, what's the guy's name? He didn't die. Paddock, Stephen Paddock. He didn't die there. It wasn't his body. They have evidence that the so-called autopsy, I think, that was done, and his body, of the body of the person was substituted for Stephen Paddock, was shorter and didn't have certain telltale signs. So it wasn't him. We figure he is, you know, like in the Bahamas or on some island somewhere, having a lovely time. And apparently he also hasn't closed his accounts, so he's still receiving money, I think, as I understand it. These are the latest things I. Let's see, intel on Iran. Well, I've talked, again, you should listen to my latest interviews, because when I interview people, especially if it's a geopolitical discussion, I will bring up things that my whistleblowers and my sources are telling me to get feedback from that particular person that I'm interviewing at the time. And so you will hear me talk to Michael Shrimpton, you will hear me talk to, too bad tonight I was going to talk to Doc Waterman. He's quite astute. It's fun to run things by him as well. Certainly when I talk to Simon Parks, we compare notes. on many things, and that's always very profitable. So I am, I mean, this kind of thing is going on. But Iran, and this whole nuclear situation with Iran, in my view, okay, this is actually, everything I know comes from the 14 years of intel that I've been getting, but it also comes from my own intuition, from the work of Ashiana Dean and the Guardian Races. When I went to India with her, I found that I was downloading information she was talking about like an hour before she started talking. I was getting the same information. So I must be in touch to some degree with the Guardian Races. I do get downloads. In fact, I get a lot of information that not only saves my life, it helps me in what I do, make decisions as to who to interview, who not to interview, where to go, what to say, what to do, because I can be, made aware of the sort of iffiness of a particular source or a person or an effort in my direction to take me off base and things like that. So all of this leads to my conclusions about things. But for one thing, with Iran, I was told a while ago that whenever you hear this word nuclear bandied about a lot, that what they're really talking about is the alien situation. So that nuclear, in some ways, nukes they're old technology. There's a lot more progressive technology even to conduct a war now. And Iran, if you know anything about my interviews with the Iranian physicist Kesh, you will know that regardless of what you think of Kesh, and he was heavily targeted. And I can also tell you that my partner and I went to Venice and were on our way to interview him when we were actually poisoned and both got deathly ill at about 3 in the morning in Venice and had to cancel our interview with Kesh. So if Kesh had nothing to say that was worthwhile, I would like to know why they tried to poison us. We did recover. We had to get on a plane and we couldn't change our ticket at that late juncture. So that was it. And since then, I actually don't know what's going on with him. But I can say that judging from the things he was involved in, which was plasma physics and other things to that, free energy, the fact that they apparently, the word is that they took down one of our drones. They have their hands on some very sophisticated technology. They also are in touch with certain races of ETs and have been for eons. So they're not like someone to mess with, to be honest. So if we were going to war with them, in some ways they would be a paper tiger to cover an actual war with China. And Iran is backed by China. Russia would side with us in such a war. And in fact, Russia is working very closely with us in our secret space program. So it's all this stuff about Russia and Russiagate and, all of that is ludicrous. Again, the Democrats are much more guilty of colluding with the Russians than the Republicans ever were. And we know that for a number of reasons. And it involves various things. So what else can I say? I guess Julian Assange, I believe that he is, and my intelligence tells me that he was, that the Americans have broken him out of what was the prison, where he's basically more or less kind of dying slowly, and that the Brits are now keeping him there on a technicality. There's a battle over getting their hands on Assange, and the reality is that he will end up on U.S. soil very likely, and he will be released. That's my information. Now, if it doesn't come to pass, then something has changed. But at least behind the scenes, this is the information I'm getting. So